Here's part two of the news of the day. So the point is that I was making is that the workers wanted a CEO type, one who's authentic. Official Washington, eventually pundits, are a bit in the dark about how that paradigm works because they know big business, they know hierarchy, they know how they work under bosses. That's not how the C-suite works. Morality exists inside each paradigm, and he's in the CEO paradigm, and they are not the same. In his paradigm, he did nothing wrong. He has always worked hard at looking competent, but it's not his strong suit, and but he wants a medal every time he looks that way because that's his inferior function, his competence or thinking. And he can think. Everybody does everything, but he has people to do that for him, and he's always had people. He was never trained to be in charge of the details. So it's the and that's what CEOs are trained for. They're the face. They have people that do the details. And the people didn't want a bureaucrat. They've had plenty of bureaucrats and people who are very well qualified, and they don't trust these people. Also, the thing is, we now know from current statistics about that time of the year that inflation really was hurting people. People were raising prices prior to Christmas, so that they can then have sales. So people, the voters are in a lot worse trouble than the statistics that were available at the time said. So, yeah, it's not even that whole question. If Obama got away with saying this is the worst economy that was the worst economy since the Great Depression, and he was right. So whatever they told him was accurate. But whoever told him, I think it was probably, I forget his name, but the guy from the University of Chicago. If Kamala had said the same thing and talked about inflation as being driven by the Trump tax cuts, then they would have, then the people might have understood. But she couldn't claim that the economy was great and that Trump was responsible for it being great, even though it wasn't. Yeah, it was between the rock and a hard place. It would have been better for her if there were actually, there was no, and abortion killed that candidacy. If you want to win the swing states, there's a lot of Catholics there who are kind of on the verge. They're in the mushy middle, and she leaned way too hard on women's rights, as the Center for Reproductive Rights and the UCL and the ACLU did in dealing with the Supreme Court. If they'd have leaned on, the viability is the reason, and the reason for viability is that the states can't be trusted, and here's the important part, that viability means that the child could be born and then has citizenship because they can be born, not because it's a woman's right. If they'd have taken that, Roe would still be around, but they messed up. And making that argument to the voters, when you have swing voters who are Catholic, it ain't gonna work. The day she said abortion was, instead of letting surrogates say abortion, is the day that she lost that race. And I voted for her, but still, I told Alice Germond, don't let Obama say abortion and justify it, especially partial birth abortion. And Hillary didn't get the memo, and neither did Kamala. And they won't. No female Democrat will be elected president unless they don't mention abortion. The states may take that off the table anyway. Although, like I've been saying, the answer is a federal law that says no abortion if the child can be born, and then the child must be born and then be given fetal hospice and a baptism or whatever race. Let them be a person until they naturally stop breathing, because you don't have to intubate somebody ever under ethics or Catholic tradition. So, which Trump doesn't know either, and neither did nobody who could explain that was in charge of writing speeches. So, and you couldn't have said that anyway. So, yeah, just not mentioning abortion was the play, and she didn't go with it. So, yeah, she didn't have a play. That's the problem. So, yeah, or are we? So yeah, we wanted a CEO, not a bureaucrat. They don't trust him. The best thing Trump can do, however, for a balanced government and country, is to hire some good bureaucrats, and like Bondi. And I think his chief knows that. And like I said, there's probably people in her back pocket or his back pocket who will I don't think Trump wants everybody that he nominated to actually be confirmed. For whatever reason, he's given them the day in the sun, and then the second choice will be the real one, who will be a conservative and will be a Trumpian, but will be confirmable. One thing about Trump as a CEO and being authentic and emotive, his book's The Art of the Deal, not the science of the deal. Don't, people are treating it like it was the science of the deal. There's no science in the way he makes deals. And that's, most people who are put authenticity before competence do that way, go that way. So the election wasn't stolen. People voted for authenticity over competence. It may have not been the worst choice. Had they wanted competence, Nikki Haley would be the president-elect right now. And she should have been the VP, but she may have passed on the job. She might even know what the economy is going to do. And it's inappropriate for us to know the answer to that, probably ever. I'm sure if Nikki had been offered it and said no, or then that a conversation between she and Trump would have been leaked, and that would have been inappropriate. Especially, and if she wants to run again, that needs to never be known. So let's look at the court cases now against Trump. So Judge Chutkan, and only Judge Chutkan, is in a position to nullify the Office of General Counsel opinion, the one that says a sitting president can't be tried. That's if she wants to do that. But she can, under Rule 48A, which could force the DOJ to keep going and probably make sure Smith is protected from being fired. She could do that. Now, is getting him so important? Let's look. Probably not. Getting Stone is, but Trump would just pardon him anyway. So, there's no percentage in that. I hope that when the story is written, Stone's role will be revealed. Now, on the other plots, Trump essentially told people under him in the campaign to show that he'd won. And Stone definitely said, we have tape saying that's what he should have done. But they did a really sloppy job of trying to make it happen. Even the fake elector plot was sloppy, but it was below how that was done. It was below Trump's pay grade. If he had been well advised, he would have said that each slate of electors should have said, we are the alternative slate. We're not saying that we're the real slate. Then nobody would have been charged with anything. But the Trump hired incompetent people. If they'd have gone that way, nobody would be charged with anything right now. There wouldn't have been an attempted fraud. It would have been people, although that probably would have only worked if the people who were actually designated as electors by the party had then done that, and they didn't do that. There were people who know how to make something like that happen. But the rule of law said, these people who would have had to do that didn't. I'm sure there was an effort to try to get these people to say, no, we're the worthy slate and we're going to challenge. But we're saying we're the worthy slate, but we're not claiming we are the slate. There's a difference in that in law. One's fraud, the other's a real claim that can be made and has been made in the past, but they didn't do it. They were sloppy. So now either luck or God kept us from what would have happened if the real test of the rule of law was made, which would have occurred if the people in the election whose mission it was to get where the members of Congress were hiding had succeeded, and God knows what that would have happened. What would have happened is probably lost to history, and maybe not. Maybe some people who were involved will talk. Yeah, which would have been a sad chapter. And thank God what could have happened didn't happen. The New York case, ask me in 20 years. Eastman was wrong in his strategy. The 12th Amendment would have simply thrown out the contested votes. And Biden still would have won. He would have had more Trump's votes than Trump even after the contested votes were taken out. The majority of those legally cast is what's required under the 12th Amendment, not the majority of the entire Electoral College, which is what the amendment says. So, yeah. So let's talk about the New York case. The New York case should never have been a felony. The campaign finance angle was too much of a reach, and probably the appeals court would have said that. They're going where the attempts to do that are going where the law shouldn't. So reducing that charge to a misdemeanor would not have been a tragedy. In Georgia, justice was done because one, Roethlisberger phone call was excluded, and Ruby and Shea, who were the real victims of the thing, they got what they needed. They have gotten their money from Rudy, and will keep getting it. So making them whole is what was really needed, and prosecuting the people who were in that chain of command between Rudy and the people who hassled Ruby, that would be appropriate. Nail them to the wall. But it's probably not Trump's fault, Rudy's is being held responsible. Maybe to get two hots on a flop, he should try to get into prison, because I hear he's not in the best way as far as living the luxury life he used to. Now the documents case was a dispute on who got the documents and who gets to keep most of the archives. Trump was badly advised. All the information should have been sent to GSA and stored in Florida or New Jersey, which is a better option given global warming. The classified charges fall into two categories: personal trophies, and Trump could have shared any of that information with Putin, and maybe he already had, and evidence of relationship with Putin, the phone calls about the perfect phone call, all of which is now considered as official acts. The president's conversations with Putin are all official acts. So, when Judge Cannon first intervened with the special master, keeping those documents, which were overclassified by Trump, away from Smith, it was reasonable because the question of official acts immunity was still open, and they should only have been given to Trump once that issue was decided. The special master did not get the memo, nor did Smith or Trump's lawyers. As a former poli-sci student, the question of official acts immunity has long been settled by history. Ever since the cases of the Louisiana Purchase and the Barbary Pirates weren't brought, or even the sighting of the National Capitol, much where it was, much of the Virginia side was actually the personal property of George Washington. He could not have gotten away with doing that today. No way you say, oh, let's put the Capitol there. Oh yeah, but no, couldn't have been done. As far as Tish James's case, as soon as Deutsche Bank wasn't being money laundering was off the table, that Drapes case should have been dropped. But the case has legs because they found the information out. So the best Trump can do is designate Bedminster as the site for his presidential library and let the rest of the chips fall where they may. And that's it, because my time has expired. Have a great Thanksgiving.